Hello, my name is Jill, and I am going to talk about uh, um, an issue that so many of our guests have, and that's why am I so tired? This is when they first come in. And oftentimes, one of the first things that we, chat about is that it's not in your head. You're not crazy. You're not a hypochondriac. There's a very real reason why you are feeling so tired. And many of us, especially women, we have our to-do list and our checklist, and we push ourselves to get through the day. And heaven forbid if we have like one slow moment in our task list because our whole momentum of fulfilling that task list goes down, and then we're just realizing how exhausted we really truly are. So we push ourselves to get through the day, checking off one task after another because it gives you that momentum, that spark. But you know the truth that if you ever stop moving long enough to rest, the exhaustion would just catch up to you. So I want to talk about why you're tired. And many of y'all have actually um, mentioned how you've gone to a physician, like what is going on with me? Why am I so exhausted? And you've even probably done your own research because now we have so many research tools at our hands, and wondering maybe it's my thyroid, which is that tiny little energy gland that's in your neck. And maybe your doctor checked your labs and was like, you're normal, you're fine. Maybe you need to like sleep more. Maybe you need to change up your diet. So these very, I might say, cliche reasons, that you might be tired, and then I'll see you in a year. Or maybe you're on Synthroid or maybe another thyroid medication, but you still feel like you're running on a low energy battery, like you just don't have enough voltage going on. And maybe nobody's really looked deeper. So if you have felt that, and Samantha, by the way, is on the chat. She's one of our wellness consultants. Fabulous. I would put up our wellness consultants up against any traditional conventional doctor. They're just so brilliant. But so she's going to be moderating the chat. And so as questions come up as I'm talking about this topic, please pop them in the chat, and then she'll send them over to me so that way I can address it. But she'll also be posting links in there as well that you might find helpful and resourceful. So if you have ever felt like you're just exhausted and you're not really getting the answers that you want, give me a thumbs up. Or maybe if it's just so bad and you've searched high and low trying to find any help, give me an exclamation point in the chat if you're able to do so, or maybe just a smiley face or a heart, because I really want to understand like how many of y'all are really struggling with this, because I hear this all the time. Yeah, there's a lot of you. And there's a reason. I really want to assure you there's a reason why you feel the way that you do, because your body is wired to let you know when something is off. And if something is off, it's going to let you know. And we're here to help you interpret what your body is saying, because you may not know what it's necessarily saying or what to do about it. But I believe with our 35 years of experience and the tens of thousands of women and men that we've been able to help, we have a pretty good idea of likely what's going on. So you're running on a body that has lost its voltage, because every cell in your body has its own power plant, its own mitochondria that gives that cell the energy that it needs to function. And when I'm talking about every cell, I'm talking about your heart cell, your liver cells, your kidney cells, your brain cells. Every system will slow down if you don't have enough spark that gets it going. So I want to help you uncover why that happens. So now, when I talk about spark, I'm actually thinking of an analogy of a spark plug in a car. And I really don't know a lot about cars to be able to speak beyond probably spark plugs, oil, and gas. But I do know this: if your spark plug isn't firing, then your car is not going anywhere. So this small butter-shaped gland that's at the base of your neck actually sends energy messages to every single cell in your body. So when it's working well, you feel great, you feel focused, you feel warm, you feel motivated. But when it slows down, so does everything else, and that includes your metabolism. So you women and men that are struggling with weight that you are trying to get off, you're doing all the right things, but the weight is still not coming off. Or if you're noticing that your hair is starting to thin, or maybe you used to have robust hair growth and now it's slowing up, or maybe you have low moods, um, maybe you're brain foggy and you just kind of feel like you're a little bit spacey and disconnected, or somebody's telling you, some information, and as quickly as it comes into your brain, you kind of lose it again. So some of those might be the little more obvious because they have everything to do with how you're functioning and what you're noticing on the immediate external piece. But maybe some of them are less obvious. Like maybe you notice that your eyebrows, if you look in the mirror, maybe they're starting to thin or they're kind of going away, like on the outside of your eyebrows. Some people lose about a third of their eyebrows. Or maybe if you stick out your tongue, I won't do it here on this live, but maybe if you stick out your tongue in the mirror and you notice these ridges that are going around your tongue that indicate that your tongue is swelling and it's pressing against the inside of your teeth, leaving these indentations around your tongue. Or maybe you notice, what another big one that I hear is that my fingernails, they used to be so strong, but now they're thin or breaking. Or maybe you've always had a slower heart rate, and slow heart rate, especially if you're doing exercise. I understand exercise, you're going to have a robust cardiac output, so you may have a naturally slower heart rate. But if you're just going day to day and your heart rate's less than 60 or maybe in the 60s range, a good heart rate's anywhere from 70 to 80 as long as you're not feeling heart palpitations. So again, all of these are your body's way of saying, hey, I don't have enough energy in the tank or gas in the tank, or I just need a little bit more help. So, and by the way, even a small dip in your thyroid hormone will actually reduce your body's energy production by up to about 30 to 40%. So a small dip, and by the time that you get to your lab work done, it's probably already been going on. And so, and this is before the lab test ever flags a problem, because again, the ranges that are happening on your lab test, they're so wide. So so if you have I'm just going to make up a level. So if you have a level of 1 to 5, or if that's the range, both the 1 and the 5 are where 95 percentile of the people actually fall. That's the high score and that's the low score. So that's how they actually come up with these ranges. But where is it optimal for you? So our job here, and what our passion is to help optimize your blood levels to where you feel great, you feel amazing, but yet you stay within a normal range. But what may be a great range for me or a great lab value for me may not be the best lab value for you. Maybe you need it on the higher end. So again, these are all the things that we'll tease out, when you come see us. So that way we can help you feel amazing, keeping you within a normal range, but also treating your symptoms. So, and I guess that kind of lends me to the next big question that we hear from our the guests that we see, is that y'all are just my last ditch effort, so to speak, because everybody else is telling me that my labs are normal, and yet I still feel so poorly. And so most conventional doctors, that's how they've been trained. They really have been trained to look at these specific lab values, particularly the TSH, to determine how your thyroid is functioning. But TSH, that's all that is basically your thyroid's messenger. It actually is a level that, when I say thyroid messenger, let me kind of tease that one out a little bit. It's basically a signal from your brain, from the pituitary gland, that tells your thyroid, hey, we need some more energy down here, help us out. But here's the thing, just because the message gets sent doesn't mean that it's being received or acted upon by yourselves. So you may have a great messenger doing your job, but if the workers, like your thyroid and your cells, don't follow through, then it's really just a message that doesn't go anywhere. So, and that's what it really means when we talk about physiologically. Sometimes the thyroid itself isn't producing enough hormone, or maybe your thyroid gland is under stress, or it's inflamed, or maybe your body lacks the key ingredients like iodine or selenium or iron to actually turn on the effectiveness of your thyroid hormone. So sometimes the thyroid is sending out plenty of hormone, but your cells are not responding because maybe they're jammed up with toxins, or I'm going to squirrel here a little bit, but women that come in on synthetic hormones, a lot of times that will impact the cell's ability to actually utilize their thyroid hormone optimally, especially if it's synthetic hormones. That it's like an ill-fitting key that jams into the keyhole and actually blocks the things that really need to get in there and actually blocks it from functioning. So also high cortisol. I'm talking about women that are under just an exorbitant amount of stress, and men too. High cortisol, and I say women because I feel like we have a more complex um, hormone pathway, because we have progesterone that cycles, estrogens that cycle, and then you add in the stress that I don't think women really do a good job overall managing stress. And so it all shows up as fluffy and puffy, like around our middle. And that high cortisol, which is our stress hormone released by our adrenal glands, because we have chronic stress, can actually block our thyroid's ability to get into those cells. So can chronic inflammation, sluggish liver function that can prevent T4 from converting into active T3. And let me slow up here for a second, because um, I'm thinking about, and I'll probably touch on this a little bit later, but your body has to convert T4 to T3, and those are the two primary thyroid hormones. So T4 is the inactive part of the thyroid hormone, but your liver helps to convert that over to the active form, which is T3. If you do not have optimally functioning liver, or if you're detoxing a lot, or if your liver's just overloaded with the stress and the burden of what it has being filtered through there, it may impact your ability to turn and convert T4 to T3, which the T3 is what you want. That's the one that gives you the pop. That's the one that gives you the energy. That's the one that's really ignites that spark plug. Um, yeah, so I'm thinking about a book, and it's well, actually, I don't remember the book's title. I think it's called Hypothyroidism, but it's by a Dr. Broda Barnes, who is Dr. Hotze actually benchmarked with when he was first checking out, exploring, leaving traditional conventional medicine and emergency medicine, and looking at how can he help women and men naturally. And he came across a endocrinologist, Dr. Broda Barnes, who talked about thyroid and how doctors rely so heavily on lab numbers instead of listening to their patients. And Dr. Broda Barnes actually said the greatest tragedy of modern medicine today is the failure to recognize and treat hypothyroidism, because if you do not have a functioning thyroid gland, it's going to impact everything in your body. Matter of fact, I think of an analogy. I'm full of analogies, but if you think about a three-legged stool, and each one of those legs, so you have your thyroid gland, you have your sex glands, which can be your ovaries and your testes, and then you have your adrenal glands. All three of these, if one of those legs is off balance, it's going to impact the other two, right? So again, like even with our guests that we help them get their lives back, truly we do. If their thyroid is off, then we're going to help supplement with their thyroid, but that also allows the adrenal glands and their female hormones or male hormones to actually respond, and actually it's almost like this recalibration that happens as we're trying to offload the stress load of your body, maybe through lifestyle changes, or even just hormonal, like optimizing their hormonal function or the thyroid function. All of that helps support the body, and it allows it to breathe and relax, that it's being taken care of. But at the seat of that stool is your gut health. So if your gut is not optimal, if your gut biome is not optimal, then it will impact all of the others. So I know I did a little squirrel there, but I really wanted to make sure that I touched on that. But I wanted to kind of go back to, everybody is so different, and I don't mean that cliche, because we all of our bodies have the same kind of functioning capabilities, meaning that our liver is supposed to function a certain way, our pancreas is supposed to function a certain way, But the antecedents that got us to our poor health, all of that looks really, really different. And so really it's a finesse, it's an individualization, it's a journey, because everybody is so different with how we help support you in treating what is happening with you. And that's why we have to listen. We have to know what is going on with you. And when I first meet a new guest, one of the first things out of my mouth is to break the propagandization or the old messaging that you shouldn't bother your doctors. Like, so many people just don't bother their doctors. They call like once a year for their refills or whatnot. But we actually need to hear from you. We need to know what is going on inside of your body. And so I tell people, carte blanche, just reach out to us. Let us know how your body's responding, what it's saying, so that way, if applicable, we can pivot your regimen according to what your body is saying. And that way we keep a tempo with adjusting, all right, you need a little bit of support here, or maybe we need to change your thyroid here or change your hormones. Anyway, that's such a passion of mine, because I do like that part of how I get to support y'all. Okay, so going back, so how does the thyroid actually work? And so I kind of touched on the analogy of how it's impacted by your adrenal glands and your sex glands. But chronic stress, let's go back to stress, because we're all very familiar with stress. It actually raises your cortisol levels, and cortisol blocks your thyroid conversion. So if you're, and what I mean by thyroid conversion is that T4 to T3, right? If you're low iron or low selenium, then the enzymes cannot activate the T4 into the T3. And then you have, all of us at some point or another have been exposed to fluoride or bromide from tap water, toothpaste, even furniture coatings, things like that. But that also competes with the iodine inside of your gland, your thyroid gland. And so, a matter of fact, I would encourage you to look at your toothpaste when you get home or wherever you are, or maybe some of the ingredients, and look to see if there's fluoride, and make that instant switch to non-fluoride toothpaste, especially if you're having low thyroid symptoms. But it doesn't matter. You don't need that fluoride. And then also tap water. As a matter of fact, I have a filtration device that actually filters fluoride from tap water. It's amazing the stuff that comes out when you have a good filtration system. I'll never drink straight tap water again. Matter of fact, speaking of fluoride, it was once used medically to actually slow down an overactive thyroid. So think about if you have a normal active thyroid or normal active thyroid, and now you're using fluoride. Think about how much you're slowing down that thyroid as well. So let's see. Moving on. So talking about another topic or another thyroid issue that I hear are the people that are on synthetic thyroids. And I'm talking about Synthroid, I'm talking about Levoxyl, Unithroid, and then Tirosint. But there's a whole bunch out there. They are only T4 medications. So again, going back to what I was saying about T4 is the inactive part of your thyroid. If it's just in your body but it's not converting to T3, you're not gonna have the boost of energy. So, and some people do have a great conversion, able to convert that T4 into the active T3. But for many of us, that conversion doesn't happen efficiently enough, or it doesn't have enough. Matter of fact, about 15% of people can't convert to T4 into T3 effectively because they may have some genetic variation that prevents an enzyme that affects an enzyme that actually drives that conversion. So it's almost like having a slow worker in an assembly line. It actually kind of just jams everything up. They're not able to do the work. There's also another thyroid hormone or a thyroid level that we check that looks like the active part of the thyroid, the T3, but it really is an imposter hormone. So it looks like T3, but when it actually binds to your cells, it actually doesn't turn the key. So it just sits there and it blocks the door for the real T3 hormone. So that's another level that we check. Matter of fact, we check about four or five different types of thyroid hormone. Not consistently, but really at the beginning, and then we tempo with what is going on as your health journey progresses, and we may check that later on. By the way, let me pause here because I'm curious, like, how much of this is resonating with you who are listening. So if it is, give me a big like, or if it's really resonating with you, give me a heart. I want to see just how many people this is impacting, because I know how many it's impacting the people that come through our doors, but it could be just because that's what we do. So it feels like a lot. Awesome. Thank you. And just so you know, at the Wellness Center, so I talked about the synthetic T4 thyroid supplementation. At the Wellness Center, we actually use natural desiccated thyroid, which is a compounded, which means it's not going to have any of the synthetic fillers and chemicals and junk that you're trying to get rid of, and you don't want to just put it right back into your body. But not only that, it also is bioidentical, meaning that your body, when you take it in, it doesn't even know the difference between what it already makes and what you're supplementing with. Remember, we're not trying to overdrive your own thyroid. We're not trying to shut it down. We're just trying to give a little supplemental dose, just a whiff, to be able to support the body in a way that it's not being able to support itself. Matter of fact, until the 1960s, desiccated thyroid was the standard care for treating hypothyroidism, and it was only replaced by synthetic T4 when lab testing, big pharma, etc., actually made it a whole lot easier. Matter of fact, Samantha, sorry, I know I've been talking a lot, but I really wanted to ask if you, because now the FDA is trying to shut down, or actually, I shouldn't say shut down, make it very challenging for people to take it, to get started or have access to desiccated thyroid. Remember, it's a bioidentical thyroid. It seems like one company is actually trying to take full ownership of thyroid production and make it a biologic. And that biologic could cost the people that actually need thyroid $1,000, maybe in the thousands every month, to be able to have supplemental thyroid. So I think, Samantha, if you can pop in some information about that in the chat so people have access to that. So you might read through that, and then again, like if I may not have communicated so clearly in a way that you may understand, but read through that. It's very easy to read through, and then if you are like, I'm in, if you could please sign that petition that will eventually find its way into the FDA, so that way we can help support our guests and even yourself, if because I'm just a real big believer that desiccated thyroid is so helpful for so many, and people getting their lives back, grandmothers being able to run after their grandkids because they have the energy to do so. It's just a life changer. All right, so let me see if I can wrap up. So if you're tired after sleeping, you can't lose weight no matter what you've been able to do. You're cold, freezing cold when everybody else is fine. You forget your words mid-sentence, and so you kind of add this little trail off, little segue that just kind of disappears into the cosmos because you forgot what you were going to say. Your hair, your mood, your motivation, all the things that you used to have when you were in your 20s, and it's just gone. I want to encourage you that there is real hope. And I see it every day, and I think that's my favorite part of being in this position, to be able to speak to that and you can know that I have a front row seat and seeing people come in at their worst, where they've hit many doctors, spent countless hours, struggled with getting even scheduled with specialists or whoever, and the fight has been long. And then they end up here, and it's just so great to say, your life is not going to be the same. You are on a different path of health and wellness, and one that we have helped so many people um, in days, even weeks, know that there is real hope because they're already seeing their body begin to respond. So I just want to encourage you that there is real hope out there. And I want to encourage you to also call our office and speak with Samantha or um, Sherry or Jen Hazenbank. They're all experienced because they talk to y'all all the time, and so they hear a lot of the same similar concerns and issues, and know how to speak exactly to what you're sharing. So our bodies are not our bodies are designed to heal, right? Like that's how God designed us, how He wired us. Our body's always trying to find ways to restore what has been taken, or what the environment or our diets are trying to take away from us. Our bodies are always trying to regain that back. So your body is wired to heal. And so I really want to encourage you to reach out. And by doing that, you can schedule a free consultation. It's free. It's just a conversation, kind of like what I wish I was having with you right now. But call 281 698 8698. So that's 281 698 8698. Matter of fact, Samantha, if you don't mind putting that in the chat. And then Samantha might also put in a Calendly link where you might look at and see what your availability is to just hop on a 15-minute call, or if you need it longer, she'll talk longer. Just whatever you need to be able to get the answers that you need and the education that you need. Because that's another thing that's really a passion of mine, is I want you to know why you're doing what you're doing. I want you to understand where you've come from and actually take steps to doing things a different way. But I want you to have the information and the education that you need to be able to do that. um, yeah, I don't want you flying blind, as the saying goes. I really want you to understand. Um, all right. I think that I covered that. Samantha, is there anything that I missed, or anything in the chat that you're seeing, that questions that I can help answer? Um, I hope that was a really helpful overview. All right. Well, I thank you so much for joining me. Oh, I saw somebody wrote a chat. T3 has helped me tremendously. Yes, yes, you need it. That's the part of the thyroid hormone that is so essential. And the T4, while I'm here, the T4 is actually takes about 7 to 10 days to really build up in your system, and then and that's how we titrate up your dose. So we titrate your dose up every 2 weeks to give your body a time to adjust and be able to kind of declare itself with what it really needs. And so desiccated thyroid, if I didn't say this, has T4 and T3, as well as some other thyroid components that actually match, again, what your body already makes. And that's the goal. Give your body back what it needs. Don't override it. Just supplement. And then as your body heals, you'll notice that these doses might actually change, because as your body gets stronger and begins to heal itself, you may not need as much. So thank you all so much for joining me. I look forward to meeting you, I hope. And I will see you next time, next month on the third Wednesday at 9 a.m. All right, bye.